We're gonna go. All okay. Transition. Now there we go. Now we're good. All right. Hey, welcome everybody to another Women's Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about the loneliness epidemic and maybe other things. I've brought an expert panel to discuss this issue. We're going to really get into the nitty gritty of it. Uh, let's start with Buckaroo. Tell us who you are, where to find you, what you do, and what are your thoughts.
I'm Big Papa Buckaroo. I love to argue about politics and about life. I can be found on Twitter at Big Papa Buckaroo. You can also find me on YouTube, where I'll eventually have videos. And yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Kinetic Help.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kinetic Kel. Happy to be back. It's been a couple weeks. You can find me on YouTube and Twitch at Kinetic Kel, and I'm excited to delve into things with these beautiful ladies joining me this evening.
All right. Thank you so much, Mel Heasy.
Hi, I'm Mel. I stream on Twitch on the occasion. You can check me out on Twitch or my other socials. And I'm excited to discuss the loneliness epidemic with all these lovely ladies today. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Tomato.
Hello, I'm Sarah, the Raging Tomato. I'm the host and moderator of the Raging Tomato and the Gauntlet. I'm super excited. I never get invited to the fun stuff, so I'm here and I can't wait to get started. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And Fairy Queen.
Hi, everybody. Name's Fairy Queen. Good to meet you guys. Good to see you guys. Those of you who I know already, hello. Hi, Mel. I don't think we've met before, but it's nice to meet you. Hi, hello out there. Shout out to the great audience. You can find me at DaRealFQ on Twitter, which is where I tweet like mad. And you can also find me there on YouTube. Thank you so much. And I am excited to get talking tonight.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah, so we're going to be getting into this. We're going to be talking about the loneliness epidemic. We're going to start this over. We're going to be talking about the loneliness epidemic tonight, and whose fault is it and why, or what's going on? Is there even one? Buckaroo, why don't you start us off with your thoughts?
I think there is a loneliness epidemic. However, I don't think it's what we all believe it to be. It's not a romantic loneliness epidemic. It's actually just a we don't talk to anybody and we don't have any friends epidemic. I've got some statistics here that I'm very excited to go into. I won't bore you right now, but I think it's not the fault of women, it's not the fault of men, it's the fault of society. That's my position. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kel.
I personally don't think there's this epidemic that people portray there to be. I think that if you go out into your community and you go find people, I think there's an effort epidemic, and a lot of people have been prioritizing convenience rather than going out to, curate those things, relationships, friendships, or otherwise take work. And I think that people aren't willing to put in that work right now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mel Heasy.
I mean, I guess you could say there's a loneliness epidemic going on. I think a large contributing factor to that is social media and a lot of things being taken into the digital age, and not many people getting out and socializing as much, or knowing how to talk to people in the same way and want to build those genuine lasting connections.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tomato.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the numbers are, particularly for the men's loneliness epidemic, but I know it's kind of something that's being kicked around the block right now as a question, or why is this a problem, so on and so forth. But I think most people are kind of leaning towards being isolationists. We have everything we need at home. We have the world at our fingertips, and there's not much we really have to do. You can find a date online. You can order pizza and have it delivered to your home. You can work from home. Everything you can do starts at home, and you can actually be a recluse on purpose. So I'm not sure if it's necessarily something we've done on purpose, or maybe something that we've just kind of fallen into because of the convenience factor of everything being available at home.
All right. Thank you so much, Fairy Queen.
Hi. So I agree with Buckaroo, and I agree with everything, basically what everyone has already said. Okay, a lot of great thoughts. I'm basically going to argue that I think that this epidemic is particularly male in the sense that it applies particularly to a particular slice of the population, to a large minority of men who are about from ages who are pretty young, who are like ages like 19 to like 25 or 26 approximately. And I would argue that the loneliness that they are experiencing boils down, I think, essentially to three different factors, which I can get into later. The first one having to do with the shift of the American economy from being a manufacturing economy and a agrarian economy to being a service economy. The second one has to do with, and this is the spicier take, some of the differences between male and the implications of what the differences between male and female IQ are. And finally, which we can talk about, just my spiciest take about this. And the third one has to do with the impact of internet technology exposure in early childhood, which is especially true for younger demographics of people than it is for older demographics of people. But that's the cliff notes, and I can get into more of that as we go through.
Yeah, I actually do have some thoughts on this. I was reading this, and when we were talking, and I wanted to expand it because I know the original prompt was going to be kind of blaming one side over the other. But I think someone mentioned here that it's like kind of the world we live in today, where it's like you're able to be reclusive, you could by choice, right? And then we have all this tech, and then you can like choose who you hang out with. You can choose who your friends are. Like that seems to be like a kind of people like the options, right? But on the same side, I think it's actually one group of people's fault specifically, and it's the men's. The men, y'all fucked up, right? Like that's who it is. Like because one, if you're a right wing conservative, as many of my audience is, you're gonna sit here and tell me, oh, we need to get back to the basics. Feminism caused this, all this shit. Listen, I hear every day on these right wing channels how women can't do shit without men letting it happen. So that means y'all let it happen. Y'all let this shit happen, and so it's your fault. And two, not only did you let it happen, you took out competition. And I think that's the maybe most important part of the shit today. We gave everybody participation trophies, everybody's mama special little boy, everybody's mama special little girl, and guess what? Now you're nobody special anything. Because none of you were special. You were all fucking losers, and you should have been told you were a loser and worked harder. And like now, nobody wants to work hard. And I think that's the real issue, and we need to take some accountability for it. And I guess, I don't know. That's my thoughts. What do y'all think here?
I completely agree with that.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Ladies first. Go ahead.
Yeah. You're a lady too. No, I can get on board with the idea. We run this whole idea that men should be leading and women follow and so on and so forth. And if men are lonely, then like why is that women's fault anyways, right? If they're choosing to be recluses or if they're having issues in their own little bubble, we can't really blame the women for that. I know that men tend to lack support groups. They tend to lack a lot of like supportive concepts. Like women, we have support groups, we have book clubs, we have our little chicken hen guac guac fest where we sit and we talk about all of our woes and woe is
We
me
have
and then
crochet.
we have
Men have AA.
crochet. Yeah, so I think that it's reasonable to say that if men are lonely, like, can we blame anyone but them? But I also will add in the little token too that maybe it's okay that the sad people are lonely and not finding mates and not reproducing to add more lonely, sad people into the world. It's nature's like selection process. Get the weakest links out. I'm
Yeah,
okay
social
with that.
Darwinism.
I have no empathy for anyone. I'm sorry.
Survival of the party boys. Let's go.
Go ahead.
I think there are a lot of things going on. I do agree that a part of it is just technology. I agree that it is convenience as well. I think we're also just seeing a breakdown of not only, people always talk about third places, but I also think we just aren't participating in the same behaviors where we are making friendships. People aren't going out and playing basketball as much. Some people do still do that. I'm not accusing everybody of locking themselves inside, but people aren't going out and playing basketball anywhere near the same rate as they used to be. And I would say there are people who are staying in and playing games with one another, or, they're watching movies together, or they're doing something else that maybe just isn't as like directly interactive. And I will add, we have to keep in mind the pandemic did actually add this massive wrench into the mix. We lost a ton of friends. A lot of people just lost friendships during the pandemic. Here I found one number, nearly 47% of people just overall lost contact with friends during the pandemic. For young women, it was 59%. And 16% of people lost touch with most of their friends out of this group.
Yeah, but
That is
this is
being
my
referenced.
problem with maybe that analysis, right? And like before before the chat goes, oh, this guy's simping. No. Y'all just don't understand where I'm coming from, right? Like, all right, there is one group of individuals that I can tell you right now is not fucking lonely. You want to know who that is? That is homeless felons without a job and a few tattoos. These motherfuckers are what we call hobosexuals. They'll have 5 different girls in their inbox. They'll be talking to all of them. They'll be fucking one living there, and then the next week they're out. So I don't want to hear all this bullshit about men having to be rich. Like, all it is they're doing something that other people aren't. And the COVID happened, and now we're all hobosexuals. Everybody's living at home. We're all at home. There's no job, no whatever. You have just about as much time as old Dale, who just got out of prison, to text all your hoes and get these girls, but you're not doing it, right? It's the lack of competition. Like, men are mad about the hypergamy thing because, oh, women are only picking whatever. Well, like, why should they pick you if you're a fucking loser? Like, that's my thing. Like, people aren't working hard. I don't know. Like the niggas, they go to church. Cool. They're pick-me's at church, or they're formerly formed hoes, and it's the same thing with the men. I'm just like, y'all are all there because y'all want to be part of the family, and like, I don't know, I get it, but like, do something. Like, have something about yourself unique.
No, I think the biggest factor here is that there's so many contributing factors of why, as a society, like, just we're changing socially. Like, exactly what you said, I think the pandemic fundamentally changed the way that we interact with each other and our families, all that good stuff. I was half joking when I said, and men go to AA, because the only time you see like groups of men coagulate and support each other, like women crochet, men go to AA. Yeah.
No, sorry, I like that. I like
whatever,
that.
whatever the word is, get together.
I would do the same.
Get fucking stuck somewhere together. But no, and I think the reason that might be is because like men in AA can like admit they have a problem, right? Where that might be seen as like a masculine weakness generally. So men aren't gonna like go and be like, just like not having a great day. They're not gonna like seek out therapy as much. But also I hate when there's so many contributing factors that's changing like the way our society fundamentally is. And then people have to point at like one specific ideology to be like, feminism did this. I'm like, there's a million factors to look at. Like, are there a million very like isolated variables? Or are there like, is everything changing all the time? And we should look at all of them.
I think there's bigger variables though.
This is a part of why I did mention like that our interests are changing to a certain extent. I think a lot of our interests are just becoming more like social media focused, for example. And so when it comes to personality, like, how are you going to develop a personality if all of you are watching like the same 7 TikToks? Like, then thank God. Now, like, if I just download all of the same information that you're consuming, am I going to have your personality? Like, is that literally all I need to find somebody? Because that's something that I jokingly complain. I'm like, men just need to have a personality. But really what I mean is I think a lot of people just don't have diverse interests. And I think men especially fall into this. I mean, at least from my perspective, men especially seem to fall into this pit of having like the 3 interests they're allowed to have. And then everything else is like nonsense. It's just, bro, like, express yourself. Feel something within.
Yeah. So here are a couple of stats. I really think that. So I worry. Okay, so I am going to push back on Gibbs. Okay, because I hear you, right? And I think that personal responsibility, like if you're sitting down and if you're talking to somebody complaining about being lonely on an individual level, right? The real answer to that person is to go get out and to go try to do things. Yeah, of course, right? But when we're thinking about this on a societal level, right? Why a lot more people seem to be experiencing this. I don't think we can just reduce this down to, well, people suck and you need to get up and go. I mean, it's kind of like talking about obesity in a way, right? Why are so many people today fat than they were in like 1950 or 1970? And you could say, well, it's because people suck because they don't go to the gym and because they don't eat more steak and they eat cheeseburgers and fries. Like, yeah, that's true. But the question becomes, why are so many more people doing that than they were? And to answer that question, you have to look at like broad trends that are affecting a lot of people. Because of course we know
Like
that
the
people
food
suck.
industry.
Of
Yeah.
course we know that people are going to do it. Of course, right? But the question is, why are people making this choice? And I think that the reason why so many people are this way is one, I think we're talking about a very particular slice of men. Okay. According to Pew Research, when we're looking at this is published like January 16th of 2025. When we're looking at Americans who say that they feel more lonely, we're looking at adults who are younger than 50, adults with some college or less education, lower income Americans, and adults who are unpartnered or living with a partner that they're not married to. And what that implies to me is that because of the fact that people who seem to have more money or who seem to have more education, but really it's mostly people that have more money, seem to say that they are less lonely, that implies to me that the reason like why this shift has happened, I don't think it's entire. I think that social media and I think that some of this is a part of the conversation, but I think the scary ogre in the corner has to do with the shift in the economy and the way that it has changed. And because I think that this particular slice of men who say that they're so lonely and say that they can't find a partner, I think the reality is that for a lot of those men, the reason for why that's the case is because these are men who struggle getting through school, they struggle getting through college, they're struggling getting a job, and the consequence of that is that they are living at home with their parents. They are dependent on someone else taking care of them at home. And the minute that you go outside to anyone, and it doesn't matter how extroverted you are, how happy-go-lucky you are, it doesn't matter, okay? The second it passes through your lips, I am living at home with mom and dad, and I'm not in college, and I'm not working, and I'm not in training, I'm not going to trade school, I'm not doing anything to be productive. The minute that somebody else in your own age group realizes that this is the case, people don't want to hang out with you. You don't have a place to have parties with your friends because you're living at home. You can't bring a girlfriend back to your place if you're crashing in mom's basement. Like a lot of these things that we talk about, like being less lonely or developing a social life, if you are somebody who is in this particular cohort of men, and I mean a very particular slice of lower income men, because this doesn't apply to everyone, as Gibbs mentioned, right? You still are going to find people, right, that work hard or that have jobs that don't necessarily make a lot of money. But that's the key thing, the question there. Do they have jobs? Okay. Do they have jobs and are they able to be independently, economically sufficient? And I think that, and this is where we can get into the broader trends of it, the shift in the economy and exposure to internet access technology in early childhood for these men is, I think, part of the conversation. But
Yeah.
I'll stop there for now.
I do want to push back a little bit, Fairy Queen. I think that the broad term that you're looking for, and this is the broad trend, is the acceptance of one word. It's called bitch assness. That's what it is. Like you're sitting here, and like I say this with 100% like sincerity. Like they're being bitch ass men. Like, okay, oh, I don't have a job, get a second one. Like I literally every week I hear on these debate panels, oh, I should be able to live a good life working 40 hours a week. Bitch, I work 3 fucking jobs right now and stream while I'm working half the time. Like, what is your excuse? I'm fat as fuck. If I can do this, your ass can do this. Like, I don't understand. Like, oh, I should be able to get enjoyment from my 40-hour-a-week job. No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. You should be miserable.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you are. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just like, and then you go, oh,
Listen.
well, it's like acceptance of this bitch ass behavior. This is a competitive world. Why do you expect to be able to get Sydney Sweeney when you look like, I don't know, the fucking purple grimace looking guy from McDonald's? You shouldn't be able to get Sydney Sweeney. You should be getting Grimace fucking or Groucho the Clown. That's who you should be getting. And people just don't want to admit that. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, but I deserve all this because I'm mama's special boy. It's bitch assness. That's the general trend. We've accepted it and we need to eliminate it.
I mean, you say that, but like Lana Del Rey's husband is no looker.
But that's the
No
thing.
bitch ass, is he? What does he do?
You don't have to be like super good looking and have
Well,
a bunch of
exactly.
money. Like you just have to put in an effort. And I think
Well, that's why I mentioned the
you know, like
homosexuals.
going back to this
Like-
being like the whole world, everybody relying on convenience. At least not the whole world, but here in America for sure.
Yeah.
everything's convenient. People just expect things to fall into their lap. I was talking
Yeah.
to a 19-year-old on a show the other night, like, about how to meet women. Like, you have to go and make an effort. Like, things don't just fall in your lap when you sit at home and you do nothing. Like, you have to get yourself out there and
Well,
make the
yeah.
effort.
Yeah, but I think I agree. I absolutely agree on an individual level, right? If we see the guy that's hanging out on mom's couch, that guy does need a kick in the ass to go out and to
Yeah.
get a job and to be self-productive. Of
Well, I was
course, right? But the
But
point
men like
is,
that still get women.
oh, I don't know how long that lasts. I'll be honest,
I-
okay?
That's until they cheat on them. That's how the homosexuals do. The homosexuals over here cheating. They got 5 girls they're fucking and 5 girls they're living with. Like, I see this literally every day. I can probably name 3 homosexuals. They haven't worked a job in years. All they do is fuck women and live off of them. Like, there's tons of guys doing this, and they're not being bitch asses.
Well,
You know why?
like,
Because they're going out and working and getting
honestly,
them.
that sounds as like reliable as a theory as like, oh, there's tons of women weaponizing having children so they can have. That sounds like just as crazy as an argument to be. So they can have child support or whatever that is. But my
But
problem
that's a
is,
real thing. Wait,
I'm
you think that's
honestly-
not a thing?
No, but I think it's an outlier because
Oh.
I don't think most people would be willing to push out an entire human for $500 or $600 a month. That's completely ridiculous. Like, and then you have to raise that kid and stuff. Like, that's you think that's worth $500 or $600 a month? Would you do that for $500 or $600 a month? Because I sure as hell wouldn't. Like, anyways, that's a different conversation. But I'm honestly glad you said that, Fairy Queen, about the that's a lot of things that like people say about obesity, and it kind of challenged my inner bias there because I was like completely with you on the first half where I'm like, yeah, it is like, where do we look at the culpability? Like at the supplier, right? And so yes, I think there is some merit that, of course, like they use like evil marketing tactics. They use red to make you hungry. It's super good, like a poison, bad for you, like McDonald's and all this other shit. There is some culpability. I also am like, also sometimes like fat ass like get off the couch and it is your responsibility to some degree. But I don't feel that way about the other things. So it kind of made me challenge my own personal bias there because I'm like,
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, yeah, no, I look again, right? Like, again, if you're talking to somebody that you personally know, like if somebody comes onto this panel and starts saying, "Well, I can't get a girlfriend and I can't do anything because the economy has shifted," right? Like that's the person that we would make fun of and say, "No, sorry, dude, you gotta go get a job," right? Of course, right? But I do think on a broader scale, just like if we're talking about obesity on a broader scale, right? Talking about these major shifts that have happened like today are going to be important to understand like why things are the way that they are. Not to excuse it, but just to explain it. I think Buckaroo, you looked like you had something.
Yeah, so I think there. So a part of the reason I said society is because I really do think it all feeds into itself. I think trying to point to just one thing right now is really hard to say this is what's causing this loneliness epidemic, or this is what's causing this specific category of people to feel this way. But I was recently looking at this survey. It was a survey of I think it was like just over 1,500 parents, and it said that more than 1 in 5 boys aged 0 to 2 are rarely or never read to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
44% of all girls, to be clear. A lot of there have been a lot of Gen Z parents saying they just find reading boring, so they don't do it to their kids either. They add a compelling new study shows social book groups can give boys space to express emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I do actually think this is somewhat important, especially if you're talking about the economy as well. I mean, we're seeing a lot of these jobs that were previously degree requiring jobs that are now going to AI. And then we see this rise in like demand for labor from the labor industry, at least, demanding more jobs. And oh my gosh, I just accidentally, sorry, I'm a dumbass. We see this massive shift to essentially not educating young boys in the same way that we're educating young women. I do think this has an influence on the economic market, and I think it's, very obviously going to influence their ability to express their feelings, to just say what they think and say how they feel, which is going to affect their future relationships. So I actually think not only is there a loneliness epidemic, I do think there is a slight gap between men and women, and I think it's actually going to get greater as time goes on, as we see that people are like less and less able to talk about their feelings, to connect to one another. And unless we start seeing like an active push against staying indoors at all times, I think we're
Yeah.
possibly screwed.
I
Not
I
to be a
want
doomer.
I love that you brought up education. That was something that I wanted to talk about with access to early internet technology in early childhood. And just to be very clear, what I mean by that, I mean like giving your kid um, close to unlimited access to iPads, to video games, to television, but mostly to internet technology, especially really below middle school, so below the age of 13. So these are the kids that we refer to as iPad kids, okay? One thing that we're noticing, and I noticed this in like the area where I work, there's been a huge drop in literacy. Literacy is a huge problem, like in a lot of schools, like across the United States. There has been a lot of kids, okay, in the district that I work in and in the district of many, many school districts, that post-pandemic, a lot of kids that are coming in, that are going into their next schools, are really struggling with knowing how to read. Reading is something that's like been a huge controversy, and if you ever want me to talk about that, I can. But basically, like it has to do with the science of reading being ignored for a while in exchange for company interests trying to basically haggle schools into buying tech curriculum that they don't need. But that's a whole can of worms for another day. But basically, for a very long time, when I was in high school, and I'm almost 30, so people that are about my age, okay, probably know this. When I was in high school, there was a huge push to put tech in schools. There was a huge push that every kid would have access to an iPad, or if not an iPad, to a Chromebook, or if your school wasn't able to have that, at the very least, you could go to the computer lab, okay? This is not just true for schools that are very expensive to go to. At this point, it's true for a wide swath of schools, including elementary schools across the United States, okay, where it is the common practice to have what's called known as MAP testing and IXL testing, okay? And what that is basically a form of diagnostic testing for children who are very young in elementary schools, okay? It is not uncommon to go to many elementary school classrooms. I'm talking like first or second grade. And for these kids to have at least a good like 30 to 40% of what they're supposed to do is on an iPad. They're expected to have iPads. They're expected to use them. They're expected to play with them. They're expected to do testing. They're mostly used because it makes it easier for teachers and for school administration to collect data on kids. But because of the fact that we use this with such small kids, and this is true if you go to any classroom, walk into any second grade, first grade, or third grade classroom, you will notice that when you go in, that there will almost always, not all of the kids, but there will be 2 or 3 little kids who have a real problem putting the iPad away, a big problem. And those kids are almost always boys. They love to play their race car games. They love to play video games. If you try to take the iPad away from them, they'll get angry, they'll fight, they'll cry. And this is something that I don't think goes away. I think a lot of these boys, okay, are habituated it not only by their teachers and by the administration and schools that they go to, but by their parents. I mean, think about iPad kids that you think about like in real life, parents that give their kids iPads to shut them up on planes, to shut them up on car rides, to shut them up if they're in the work meeting and the kids like sitting back there. It has been a very, very common practice for little kids for a very, very long time, to the point, and it doesn't go away when those kids go to high school or when they go to middle school. It's not uncommon for a lot of teenage boys that the second they come home, they go upstairs, they close their doors, and they stay on the internet all day, okay? They play video games, and what's very frequently the case, and people that are my age know that this is true, a lot of these boys are exposed and socialized by some of the worst people on planet Earth, okay? Everyone here knows the problems that porn has and has had on little kids, and exposure to it, right? We all know, right, that if you grew up in the 80s, right, your exposure might be, watching like a steamy movie, behind your parents' couch,
Finding
or
a
going, yeah,
magazine,
finding a magazine. That was, or reading, like something
Picked up on a
illicit,
lot
like
of
in like
and
a
like Disney
Harlequin
Plus,
novel.
are you
But
like Disney Plus
today,
just like
well,
date like
I,
dating
I,
or just like personal experience?
I don't think that I need to have data to establish that. I think like I don't think a lot of
No, I'm
kids were
gonna-
watching internet porn like when you're like in the 80s, right? That was not really exactly as widely accessible like then.
It was
But
nudie magazines in the
Yeah.
80s
Yeah.
and 90s.
No. I meant the sorry.
And like
I just
pausing
meant
at the perfect spot.
what
in
makes
the
you like
movie.
think that,
Yeah, they're like
What makes you think that like only boys in the classroom like don't put down the iPad?
So I'm not saying that
Sorry,
like
before we
it's
get too
only
far away
boys.
from
I'm not saying that like that's not always the case. Like there are sometimes girls, but normally the problems that we have with girls with technology are they're not necessarily better, but they're different. So
Well,
it has to do
I
with social media, it has to do with bullying, it has to do with gossiping,
well,
it has to do with
well,
grooming, it's that kind of thing.
yeah, but you said something
it's
interesting
just
here, Fairy Queen.
expressed differently
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they socialize differently.
You said something here interesting though, and I think this kind of relates back to what I've been saying, right? What did you just describe? You said these guys get home, and what do? They go on their video game. Why? Well, why do they go on their video game? Well, it's because we got rid of all the competition in schools. Most of these guys want to go and get all their bullshit out, right? So what do? They got to get their aggression out, so we're gonna go play COD for 30 hours, and we're gonna fucking blow people up and talk shit. Because if I talk shit at school, immediately expelled or I'm suspended ISS. Oh, used to you would go have the coaches set up a fight in the locker room for the two guys. You boxed out, it'd be fine. You go get Whataburger and be good. But now you just build people up and like you never let them fight. You never let them compete. Half the time it's competition free. We have little participation trophies all the way up until they're middle school. And by that time, we've missed all these important years of learning how to interact with other people. And then y'all are sitting here going, oh, well, why do they go play video games? Well, it's the only area where men can exercise their aggression response without being told that they're violent psychopaths for having testosterone.
And without being filmed, which is the other piece of this too, right? I mean, think about like what it would have meant if you got into like a locker room fight like in the 90s.
I think this
okay,
isn't considering the fact. I mean, this is literally why I said, this is why I mentioned the whole like it helps young boys talk about their feelings. Punching another young boy is not the only way that you can express an emotion, and this is something that I think is. I think this is not the only way to express an emotion. Boys can express anger. They can also express happiness and sadness and confusion and grief. Young boys have the same range of emotions as young girls. That doesn't mean that they're going to feel every same emotion in response to every situation. But I think when we push young boys to fight one another every time there's some sort of disagreement, instead of just sit down and have a discussion, I mean, I think that in and of itself is ridiculous. Why are you trying to get two children to fight one another when they have the capability to use their brains, to think critically, to express themselves using words, and to actually work through this situation? I mean, when you're grown up, when you're at the bank, if they tell you something and you're confused, you're not allowed to fucking throw shit at him. You actually have to say, I am confused. I don't know what that means. Can you please explain this part to me? If they have not grown up with the capability to say these things, and they haven't even been given the space to do this in classrooms because they're told to fight one another instead, I mean, how the fuck are we expecting them to be like civilized, normal people? And not civilized, but to live in a civil society.
Some pushback there.
Yeah.
Like, we only just started telling men to express their feelings and telling children to, especially boys, to express themselves. And I haven't seen like it progressing. I've seen it only make things worse. Like boys,
Can you separate? Can you actually separate apart?
Hold on. You and I, we can probably talk things out. We're girls. We know how to like put these little boxes around. And then if we can't talk it out, I'm probably going to be like, you know what? Fuck that bitch. And I'm going to like not talk to you and you're not going to talk to me. We're going to go to our own separate corners and we're going to snuff up our little noses and call it a day. Men have that inside channeling of energy when they get into an argument, like not just like I disagree with you kind of stuff, like actual they're bucking
Men aren't
up.
fucking monsters.
Yeah,
They're grown adults.
Yeah.
They aren't just taken over by some beast that they have to like fight within every single time they have an interaction. They can just say, they can literally say the same exact thing. They can say, you know what? I don't like this, you're a dumb bitch, and they can walk away. Men are not these uncontrollable monsters, and when we tell them that the only way that they can express their feelings is by fighting with one another,
It's not
I think
the
we
only
actually are forcing that. You just said it was the only way a few
It's
minutes
not the
ago. I
only way,
argued with
but
you
what
on
I'm
that.
saying is when we allow them to like let them work it out. They'll figure it out. They're smart enough. They can
Well,
buck
no,
up. They can
apparently
do
we're
what they
trying to get them
want.
to fight one
It,
another
but
instead of letting
also
them work it out.
it's part of like boys becoming men. It's they're not just challenging
Punching
each
each
other, they're
other?
challenging themselves,
A
right?
challenge
It's
to themselves is to not act on this like basal purely hormonal reaction. To actually grow and develop as a human being, you should be able to respond to your emotions in a
Yeah,
reasonable manner.
but
You should be able to
Sarah,
feel something
Sarah, excuse me.
internally. You should be able to feel something internally, think that's my internal response, and then
Buckaroo,
act on your thoughts.
And
Buckaroo, if I
now
can,
we're in a place, sorry, now we're in a place where men are suddenly lonely because women told men, feel your feelings, tell me about it, express yourself
That's
to me.
why it's
And
happening.
now we're
It's
seeing a
because
bunch of
men
weak ass
expressing
bitches who aren't
feelings.
being challenged to buck the fuck up. Like that's how
I just don't
that's how boys
I just
become
don't
men.
agree
They
that you
grow
have to
into
punch
those
each other
molds.
to become a man.
I'm
I
not
don't agree that
saying I'm not
you
saying
have
you
to
always have to go.
always
I'm
act on
not
your base impulses like a fucking child just to be a man. I think that's ridiculous.
Always fight each other just the way you're not gonna always talk things out. I think there's a time and place for everything, and
There is
I
a time
think
and place
I
for
think the time to
everything.
fight someone is when they are trying to fight you, and that's it. I think if you are such a child that you will even regularly act on fighting, first off, you're going to go to jail. Second, you're probably going to be fired from most of your jobs. Third, you are never going to be promoted anywhere. And fourth, you're probably going to get into a fight with a taxi driver at some point. Okay, just keep that in mind. If you think fighting is the adequate response to I'm uncomfortable in this situation, unless your physical safety is being threatened or there are other people nearby who cannot defend themselves, the idea that you have to buck up and start fighting is silly. And that's not to say you can't stand on business.
So,
Buckaroo,
But like,
Buckaroo.
buck up
But
and
you
fight.
no.
like
Here, if I
you
may
can
interject, if I may interject real
Yeah,
quick.
go ahead. You
Sorry.
can go.
Yeah, no, but if I'm so there, let's just to state the obvious, right? I don't think it's intrinsically male or female. I was gonna say from the jump of this conversation, just the way you worded the question that we were gonna be kind of ramping on, Gibbs, how it was like, whose fault is it? I think when we divide anything, I think that's when we run into problems, whether it be by gender, by political party, and it makes it us versus them. However, to state the obvious, obviously men have typically more testosterone than women, right? So that's the only thing. So like their hormonal changes are going to be different than ours. So like I understand that like based on the science that we have available, typically like male puberty is going to require more rage or whatever, but I think you're 100% correct that they're going to continue to have more testosterone. And exactly what you said, you can't just fucking punch someone if they got your order wrong and shit. And I think that integrating men into society like this is intrinsically wrong. But I also do think there is merit to what Sarah's saying in that sometimes you just gotta fucking duke it out. But I also think that's where like a lot of sexism stems from. If you have a woman with a little bit of high testosterone, okay, when I rage out, when I do something, it's a huge deal. Like she's a crash out, she's a danger to
People
society.
are like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Do you need help? Where if it's a
Yep.
man, they're like, why doesn't he go punch somebody? Because they're
Mhm.
okay with justifying violence against men that they aren't willing to justify against women, which I
Yes.
find very interesting. Now, I'm not saying that men aren't, on paper, sometimes stronger than women, regularly stronger than women. Their physical feature, the average man, is usually taller, has a different kind of muscle density, all of these things, right? But why are we suddenly just saying, you know what? Let's just punch all the guys. I mean, come on, they're men.
Yes,
They
you
need
know why?
it.
You know
I mean,
why?
it's good for them.
know
What if we
why,
On
just
here,
slice
hold
them
on.
up too?
Let me
It'll be real
let me just
fun.
let me.
Here's okay, go
I
ahead.
I do find this interesting. I actually agree with Kel here at a point where it's not just men, right? I have a cohort of female friends, many of them. I think maybe one of them right here who would say, arguably, if someone says the wrong thing, they 100% deserve to catch these fucking hands. And I think
Which
that
is-
a lot of people have gotten this mentality of, oh, we are these culturally enlightened beings and we aren't animals. When in reality,
can
we're the
be.
same thing as the pigs and the sharks and the mice, and all we do is breed and fucking fight. That's all we
We're
do.
not.
That's what we do. We're not any
Yeah,
more
men-
civilized. I mean, I've seen ant colonies that rival our greatest cities. It's like, so I'm not convinced.
Gibbs
I'm
doesn't
not.
even care about the men anymore.
I'm just saying. I think
He's
yeah.
gone full equality.
No,
This
no.
is
I'm
not
saying.
a true deck
I'm
on the
saying
sun.
yes. It is the
Welcome to
men's
chat.
fault primarily because we've allowed this mentality to pervade through the society. But yeah, it's bitch asses. If you
The men
say some
allow.
wild shit, you need to catch these hands sometimes, and you need to know what an ass whooping feels like because physical pain teaches you lessons that emotional pain never will.
True.
I do agree there are certain circumstances where people get hit and they learn a lesson, okay? Now, I'm not trying to say that never happens. I'm trying to say that we shouldn't be advocating for it and that shouldn't be the number one way someone learns a lesson. I think it'd actually be really great if people could learn lessons through learning. Big surprise, not through hitting. And so when we're like going on and on by arguing about how all these people just need to start being animalistic and fight one another, I mean, that just sounds silly to me. You can
I mean,
you
like,
can
have you
stand
seen
on
Fight Club?
business, you can defend yourself, you can even express your own physical anger. Like, I'm not even saying you can't be in karate, you can't be in jujitsu, you can't be in like MMA, you can't do any of these things. Fucking do all of those things. Do what's necessary for you as an individual to work through your feelings internally and to live a good life. But just know that fighting other people is not a necessary part of that life. It is something you choose unless you're doing it in defense.
So Buckaroo. Sorry. You go, Sarah.
Sorry. Like, how do men know how to measure up? How do they know what they're competing with? Like, if a guy can't defend himself, he's not going to be able to defend a woman, and that's
I didn't say he
how
couldn't
they
defend
that's
himself,
men
but I'm also
constantly are
worried about men
testing.
only about how they can defend
I have
women.
tried to be
They
so
are
quiet while
people.
you talk. I have not interrupted you. I've tried to
You're
hold
right. You're right.
myself.
I'm sorry.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
Like, men go through these things, and that's how they put themselves on levels, right? This is how they figure out, like, are you going to be the weak bitch ass at the bottom, or are you going to be the one on top? Like, and this is how they work this hierarchy out between them. This is how they figure out if they like need to go and work out. Like, you get your ass handed to you and all of these things. Like, you either survive or you die. It pick one or the other. But we took away
Natural selection, though.
hold on.
Does this actually happen?
Yeah, let her finish.
We
Let her
took
finish.
we took away bullying. I'm not saying all bullying is good, but I do think that some shame and bullying tactics are actually very helpful. I was incredibly bullied in high school and I came out just fine. I survived. I beat the fuck out of a bitch and let her have it. Life happens and we move on, right? I think some degree of bullying's okay. I think we freak out if boys want to fight it out and so on and so forth. And all we've said is like, well, you need to express your feelings to each other. We need to talk this out. They're not talking it out. They don't give a shit. They're going to let them fight. And then what typically happens with men, they fight it out and then they go get a beer. And they're like, all right, I'm good. All right, you got it out. I got it out. We're cool. And they move the fuck on. And that's typically what happens. And we need to let them establish that and go through these procedures. Women have we have no right to come in and tell men what they should or shouldn't be doing because we don't know what it's like to be a man, just the same as we don't want them telling us what to do. We yik yak a lot. We talk it out. We're supportive. We're, oh my God, yes, queen, you look great. Like, that's what we do. Men don't do that shit. They disagree. They beat the fuck out of each other. They go grab a beer. They have a best friend for life now.
If I had a male doctor, I'd let him tell me what to do to take care of my health just as much as female psychologists who are saying these are things that are necessary for psychological development of a child. I believe them, even though they're women. I know, like, wild thing. But again, I'm not saying that men can't have some way to get through that anger. I'm saying that encouraging them to physically fight one another in school is not the way to do it. And
I mean,
think
I don't know if that's exactly what's being. I mean, I know that we're using.
I mean, that
we're
is
talking
what
about-
was
is that
said
the quickest
earlier,
point?
to be clear.
I
That
mean,
was
I mean,
quite
no,
literally said earlier.
Well, yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, the
if
coaches
I-
would set it up in a safe environment, give them both boxing gloves, and say, "All right, cool," and they have the trainer on standby. What's any more dangerous than doing that than playing football? Like, I think
Well,
that's better. Now you can work
I
out
mean,
your
I
issues.
don't. Do you want me to argue about why I don't support
I'll tell you what's more
using
dangerous
school
about it.
in
What's
school?
more
Because we could
dangerous
go on
about
that
it is
route.
that what's more dangerous about it, Gibbs. This is what I would say about the fighting thing. Okay, what's dangerous about it is that today all the kids surrounding the fight that's happening are going to whip out their iPhones, and you're going to wind up on TikTok or YouTube with
Good.
1,000.
You should. If
people.
you lose,
Like,
you should wind up on
no,
TikTok for
but
getting
like
your ass
that's not
beat.
this. Okay, but to be fair, right? That isn't the same
Don't
experience
lose.
as like being in the 90s and just getting a black eye and being kind of sheepish the next day. Like, this is on the internet for life. People see that, like, you've been shamed. You know, this is something that people are going to see, like, when you're 30, when you're 40, when
I
you're
mean,
50.
I grew up in the
that is-
2000s, and we all
that
have videos of our fights. What are you talking about? Like,
bullying also
this
does
has been
still
happening for,
happen.
like,
To be
I
clear.
still have like a high school
Bullying
fight
is
video
very
somewhere.
prevalent.
Like,
Well, I think that is this reality. If I may, okay, I think that, but I agree, like, in spirit with what Gibbs and with what Sarah is saying, because I mean, we're talking about the subject is fighting, but I think what we're really saying is that, and I think this is a point of disagreement, Buckaroo. We're saying that there are sex differences between how men and women handle conflict,
There was
and
not
that
a point of disagreement there. I actually completely agreed with that the
Well,
whole time.
here,
I've agreed
well,
with that.
but
if I may speak real quick,
I've
there's
literally just said
the
we
problem is, so let me speak real quick. Sorry, let me. So the problem is, I think that you guys both have points to make where I'm like, yeah, of course, boys have more testosterone. Exactly what Sarah said. We're not going to know what it's like to be a man. However, I think, fucker, I think there's like, you think of it on like the very like libertarian version of it where it's like we all must be treated equally, and I think there is some merit to that. I think what we need to
Well,
find is the common
if.
ground to where what do we accept for people of all gender to be integrated into society, because we can't just raise them completely differently like male and female. So it's like, where are we lacking in like doing it as a gendered thing? And so she's saying that we're encouraging men more, obviously, like on the violence side. They're saying it's part of growing up a boy, blah blah blah. And she's saying, well, what can we do to have like to be preventative instead of just encouraging violence?
The answer is that you have things that cater to like what men need, and what they need is wood shop, sports, Boy Scouts. They need to be involved in some
I think that could
kind of
benefit women as
training.
well.
Well,
Yeah,
no, I
these
think
are
that this is
all
the
Men,
just-
men
You
can
should
do
learn how to wear
crocheting,
sweatpants. You should know how to
glass
change
Hold
your
on, I was very
tire.
patient, okay? Like,
Like,
here, I think that this is a
I wanna
difference
know how to
between
build a
how men
chair.
and women thrive in school and how they thrive like in
I think
childhood,
this is
and it will
just
prep them for later
unfair.
on.
I think this
No,
is just
it's not
unfairly
unfair. No, it's
placing
not unfair. It's
characteristics
not
on
unfair.
men and women.
No, I'm
I mean,
not.
yes,
Hold on,
I
hold on.
agree there is
Look,
some distribution, but you can't just
no,
say this is
no.
what all the men need and this is what all the girls
Okay, am
need.
I saying that every single man, literally every single little boy, is always going to thrive in it? No. But what am saying is that it is true enough for most little boys, for the vast majority of little boys, that this is, as a general rule of thumb, something that should be encouraged within schools, within their social lives, and something that parents should know. And this is a shift that's happened, and this goes
Well-
into kind of the aesthetic of like what you and Sarah are saying, because I know the subject is fighting, right? But really, boys need to have experience with these types of things. I've seen it in so many cases. I've seen it in schools. I've seen it in after school programs. I've seen it in camps. I've seen it with lots of kids. Okay. You will have lots of women who will go to these boys who are just wild and out, and they will try to settle them down by having a talk with their feelings, and it never, ever, ever works. What gets them to behave is when you have an adult man that comes and tells them to shut up and to do what they're supposed to do. That's what they respond to. They need to have discipline. They need to be involved in these things, because when they do, they will have a sense of achievement. They're socialized. It's just not the same. If you get a huge group of little girls or young women to work together, they are typically more collaborative. They typically are quieter. They sit in their seats.
Well,
They turn in their assignments.
Young boys play
They are
video
ha-
games, play team video games with each other every fucking night. You guys
and
are
they
talking
yell
about
at
how
each other
everybody's
and call
gaming.
each other
Boys
swear
play
words
games
while
with
they're
each other
doing
all
it.
the
Well,
time.
hold on,
Boys play sports with each
Let
other all the time.
me
The idea
reframe
that
this.
boys can't be collaborative is just unfair. Again,
No,
I'm not
no, hold on,
saying
hold on,
that.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
I'm
Let
not
me just
saying that,
reframe
like-
this a little bit, because I do think we're kind of moving away from where I think this is tonight. Okay, so like, yeah, I do agree with we need to restructure the schools for a lot of reasons, but like we need to teach more life classes. You know, I think that would be good for men and women overall. Like, I fucking sew shit every day. Like, literally, it's literally one of my
It's
jobs
very
now.
useful.
Yeah,
yes.
it's
It is a life
literally
skill.
so
It
something
is a
we.
life
I just
skill.
sewed a button
Oh my
on.
God.
You know how often
You're
you got to
so
sew a
able
button
to.
on when you're fat? It's useful. You got to know how to do that shit, right?
When I
Like,
worked,
I'm just
can I
saying.
say,
But hold on.
when I worked at the
I
Montessori school, we had 5-year-olds sewing buttons.
yeah, it's
Okay,
not
boy or
hard.
girl.
You should
It's a
probably learn
life
to do
skill.
it. You don't need to ask mama or your sister to sew your buttons on. You know, if you're fatty, you definitely probably should learn how to sew a button. All right, cool. Secondly, I think the issue is that it's not just I think it's men's fault for letting this happen, like I said, but I think it's the competitive nature and this idea that we're sophisticated beings. Like, I think that there is a level at some point where you need to communicate, and there needs to be a definitive winner or loser sometimes. And like physical pain teaches like nothing else. Like, if I'm gonna call you a whore and I'm a girl, and the girl then gets punched in the mouth by the other chick, guess what? That chick's probably gonna swing back, and at the end, the one that lost is probably the whore. And guess what? Now we all know that's how it should be. You know, I'm
Nobody is
sorry.
arguing that violence
It's
isn't.
it's
That
that
violence
simple.
doesn't have a result.
Well,
I'm just
Gibbs,
saying that
There
violence
needs
isn't
to be
the
a
only
winner and
option.
loser. Don't talk shit if you can't back it up. Like, that's the main
this
thing.
goes back to the hierarchy point. This is the hierarchy point. This is what Gibbs is saying. Okay, that's what the fighting represents to men. Okay,
Well,
it
women
represents
too.
hierarchy. Okay,
That's just not
no,
true for
it's
all
not.
men. This is
It's
not true
the
for
same.
all
No,
women.
that's
I
Wait,
think
hold on.
again, it's
I
I
unfair
can
to
think of
put
two
down
women here
either
who have already
side.
said that what Sarah said for
I'm not
sure
saying. I'm
that
not saying that
she'd
girls
gotten in a
don't get
fight
into
because some girl
fights.
said something.
I,
I know another girl here,
I,
and I want to go to
I
her.
defended
Mel,
myself in a
hold on,
fight.
hold on, hold on. Let me go to Mel. Mel, what do you think? Do you think that there comes a point where you say something to somebody, they need to catch their ass whipping?
Yeah, but I don't think that's the point that they're trying to make.
I know that's not the
Yeah.
point they're trying to make. It's a dumb point they're trying to make. That's why we're going to you. So you tell me what you think here.
okay.
Well, you know what they say, talk shit, get hit. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, you can talk things out sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
you
almost
can.
as if it's
Yes, you
situational,
Yeah.
and they need
Yeah.
the competitive thing. Like, there has to be the
No,
threat of violence in order for you to be
Gibbs.
peaceful.
For
Like, that's
men,
really that
okay,
simple.
but not
That's
so
just
much for
stupid.
women in life. Okay, so this is what was trying to point out here. Okay, I'm not denying. Okay, I get it. Okay, girls get into fights at school. It happens. Okay, I've seen it happen. Okay, but what I'm saying is the social dynamics and like what that represents
I
to
was at a
girls
wedding.
in school is different than it is for boys. Okay, for boys, okay, it does, like what Gibbs is saying, okay, about like, you know, like whoever, like it's about winners and losers. It's about like being competitive, about getting on top. That's more of how, when you talk about fighting for boys, how that's situated. For girls, okay, like generally, like, I mean, like the situation that Gibbs talked about, it's like some girl was being really, really mean. She's a part of the out group and she's been such a bitch, okay? And you going and fighting her, okay? You're not doing that so that you can make yourself a part of some kind of hierarchy. You're doing that because you've established the weirdo or bad person, okay? So that you can come back to be a part of the broader group.
That's a hierarchy.
Right?
That's a hierarchy, though.
That's not
That's the
a
same thing
hierarchy.
as men do.
No,
We're like, look at
no,
weird
that is
Monty.
a hierarchy.
He's a
Same
weird.
way.
He's a gay wizard, and then you go beat his ass, or he
No,
beats
it
your
doesn't
ass,
work the
and now
same way.
you're the gay
No,
wizard.
no,
Like, it's
no,
that
no,
simple.
Gibbs,
Like,
no,
I just
Gibbs.
think
Typically,
violence is the
women-
faster, easier option, and I think that's why a lot of people choose it. I also think it's something that people feel naturally inclined to, and when they actually act on those feelings, they feel a high because their heart is racing and they feel good same reason they feel good after a fucking run. Okay, you're just on that high for the rest of the day. Good for you if you win. But my point is just that
if you
yes,
lose, how do you
it's
feel? That's the
fast.
more important
Yes,
feeling.
it's easy.
If you lose, how do you feel,
but
though?
yes, it's fast. Yes, it's easy, but that doesn't mean it's the necessary option.
Yeah, but Gibbs, the
Yeah,
winning
but
and
you're
losing
not
thing, like,
understanding. The winning and losing
yeah,
is key. How do you feel when you lose that
yeah,
fight?
no,
Do you get
yeah,
your
but
ass
that-
beat? How do you
I feel
feel?
similarly ashamed when I like
Ashamed?
lose
You
a
feel
good
shame?
argument.
Do you feel like you're in pain if you maybe busted your face or broke your nose or hurt your shoulder? Do you feel in pain physically? Yes,
I'm
you do.
always in pain.
Right. So okay,
Right.
so that's a teacher.
I'm always
You
suffering.
learn, hey, maybe I don't want to feel this shame and this physical ass whooping that manifested my feelings physically. Maybe I will think again next time before I go
maybe I'll think
call
about
the
using my
6'8" black
words
guy, the
before I
N-word walking
start
down the
using my
street. Like, it's that
hands
simple. Like,
instead.
you know, have some real world awareness. There's
Gibbs,
consequences to
Gibbs.
actions.
Gibbs, if I may, okay, I'm not denying, okay, that fights happen with girls. But what I'm saying is for female groups, okay, in groups of women, the way that it works, even if everyone secretly knows that there is someone that's prettier or has more money or has whatever X factor it is, the way that it works is you're not supposed to acknowledge it. You go around, you make sure everyone has the same amount of cake. You know, you talk to each other. Everyone gets the talking stick. Everyone gets a little bit of time to speak. You know, this is how it works with women.
I think
women,
girls have to talk it out more too. I will admit, I think girls are like pussyfooting around the bush sometimes, and they're not willing to just be like, "Hey, you're dumb.
It's more relational.
You're saying dumb
like
things."
Women are able
I
to
think it would be
ostracize
different.
by gossip.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
able
Yeah.
to say,
Wait.
I don't like that bitch. And then we go to all the ladies and we say, nobody talked to her. She's a this.
You don't
She said that.
like
Oh my
her.
God. And
It's
then she
insane.
did this.
Or they
Like,
just,
we're not going to talk
it's
to her. And then they even go to the
insane.
guys and say, hey, we don't like that girl. Like, you shouldn't talk to her either. And now they completely have ostracized her from their social group. Men do it differently. If you want your place in our crew, you gotta earn it. I'm gonna beat the
Yep.
shit out of you. And if you
Okay,
lose
I
and
just
walk
had-
away crying, you know, then that's on you.
Exactly.
But if we beat the crap out of each other, we're gonna go grab a beer after that, as long as you don't be a whiny bitch at the end.
Exactly.
We have taken away the ability for men to work things out the way that they are biologically bound to do so. We've taken away the bullying, we've taken away all the fun stuff, we've taken away the way that humans naturally know how to interact, and we put in all this pussy mode of participation trophies, no bullying bad, fighting bad, don't hurt each other, yada, yada, yada. And now people don't know how to work it out. And now you end up with all of these pussy ass men who don't know how to defend themselves. They don't know how to earn their place. They don't know how to defend their women. They haven't taken a punch to the face. And you know exactly what man has never taken a punch to the face. He is a fucking
That's actually
vagina.
true.
Okay.
That actually is true. You know when a man hasn't
pathetic.
taken
It's
a hit to the face.
pathetic.
But I don't think it's pathetic. I just think you can tell. Sorry. If you had more to say, I'm so sorry. I have
We
been
want all
interrupted
of
by you.
these men to be in
Oh,
their
no.
feelings, but realistically speaking, men aren't built to do that. Like, that doesn't mean that everything has to be a fight. Men know how to they learn how to later choose, like, are you worth a fight? You're not even worth, like, what dude is going to sit down and be like, would you like to talk about why we're mad at each other? I'd like to talk. No,
Yeah.
they turn around, they walk away, and they say, screw you, dude, fuck off. Right? They don't need to sit down and talk about the real old feelings. I'm either going to knock you out or I'm leaving. Depends
Yep.
on how you want to run this course. And that's how it should be. They don't need to talk. What's there to talk it out? You don't like me, I don't like you. Go away.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm
And no, I completely
Sorry,
agree
I'm just
with Sarah.
eager to be clear.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with what Sarah's saying. I'm just saying that on top of what Sarah's saying is that I think that there are broader implications, okay, for the flourishing of young men, okay, that go and extend beyond just the fighting example, like sports, woodshop, Boy Scouts, you know, going into JROTC, like these types of things. We have seen, okay, we have seen a lot of these things going away from schools. They aren't as available in schools. And part of the reason for that, and this goes back to the in feelings thing, and this is something I'm going to say, I don't know how much of the in feelings thing or the worrying about like the loneliness thing for this slice of men, I don't know how much of that is actually for their well-being and how much of that is actually for our well-being. So for one, I think that a lot of people that worry about lonely, you know, disaffected young men, they're really worried about like a bunch of men without jobs who have nothing going for them in life, who might wind up getting into trouble, who might get into crime, who might break into cars, who might, you know, become school shooters, this nature of thing, right? So that's, I think, the reason like why people are worried about the loneliness thing.
So
but if I may, like this oh gosh, I forgot it. Okay, yeah, yes, Gibbs.
Yeah, so like I think there's one thing though that I think we kind of touched on, but we didn't really go into. The reason I'm like really adamant about the sports thing, and I advocated, you know, there's cases where the coaches would be like, okay, cool, here's the boxing gloves, trainers on hand, here's some headgear. You know, it's safer than us go meeting up in the field. That's a much preferred scenario, right? You know, but like I think that there's a part of this that there's a reason why NCAA athletes, when they graduate, on average, the 69% of them maintain jobs in perpetuity. Right?
Yeah.
There's a reason for this. It's because especially with men need the structure. They have father figure people, mentors, right? These coaches usually take interest in these kids. They try to like help them along. They learn how to work in a team, like follow leaders. Not everybody needs to be a leader. Sometimes you have to be a good follower. Sometimes you have to be a skill player. Sometimes you have to step up when your button's called. And I think that's a key thing with the sports aspect that's not pushed. And that's why I keep coming back to this competitive nature thing being the biggest issue, because we're coming back to like what y'all are saying. Okay, we want to talk about feelings. Well, okay, let's say men follow what y'all are saying and want to, like, not all y'all, but some of y'all are saying, and want to just talk out their feelings. I can't tell you how many women I know that bitch about these dudes being women. Like, they're just like, okay, this guy's talking to me. Like, why can't he just go have a beer and shut the fuck up? I don't want to hear his feelings all day. Like, I hear this every day almost. They're like, oh, he's acting sassy, this sassy ass man. Like, the women may say they want this, but I don't think they do, or at least a large group of them don't. And then when men act like this, they're like, well, what's not working? I listen to women. And it's like, well, hey, fam, you became a bitch while doing it, and now nobody wants you.
To be clear, again, we're not talking about just like grown adults changing their lives. We're talking about the trends over years and how people are raised as well. Like, I'm not saying every man tomorrow should just start spilling like every last thought on their mind to the person next to them. But I am saying that even just having the capacity to understand and explain how you feel throughout childhood, in adolescence, gives you better skills moving forward when it comes to communication. I mean, we're talking about these massive differences between men and women. And again, like I said, I actually agree. There are some biological differences when it comes to puberty and how hormones are obviously going to change how people respond to their feelings. But I completely forgot where I was going with that point. But I think it's important to still keep in mind that women are interacting with one another just a lot more. They're given a lot more space to socialize from a younger age. And so they are going to have a higher capacity in adulthood than men within the same age range if they haven't been given that ability. So well, I just want to keep in mind, it's not just about your natural inclinations. It's also about how you've been raised.
But I think that the feelings thing is not just about getting girlfriends. I think it's also about getting a job, which goes back to
the loneliness epidemic. Well, the loneliness epidemic was specifically focused on friends. Men without any close friends has increased fivefold since 1990.
But if you don't have a good job, if you are living at home in your basement because you can't get a stake, because you don't show up on time, because you have poor executive functioning, and you don't send emails when you're supposed to, and you don't do what your boss asks you to do, you don't have a competitive spirit, you don't wear your uniform, you don't do a lot of the things that you have to do in order to be successful at work, you're not going to have that job for very long, which means that your ability to have friends, to socialize with people, is going to be limited. It's going to be hard for you to go to the bar if you're not going to be able to pay to get a beer when you go there.
That's not true. There's plenty of unemployed men that go out to the bars that try to mooch off other people to get drinks.
That's what I've been saying.
Just because it happens doesn't mean it's happening at a substantial rate, though.
It is, though. Like in certain areas, most of the men are largely unemployed, or they're drug dealers, or they're.
Well, I mean, at least in the club scene, which is a large percentage of people, like in a city, like for sure, like bars, clubs, dive bars. Like, this is a large group of dudes. Like, everybody's always like, oh, it's this group. If you have to tell me which is a bigger, like, audience, the homosexual men that live at these little dive bars and at the clubs, or the crawl line people, I would argue they're probably close to the same size if we go every city in the United States. Because these dudes just be out trying to get laid and find a place to sleep, because that's the only way they find a place to sleep. And they do it every night. Well, and like, nah, it doesn't exist. It's a small group. I'm like,
well, here's why, Gibbs. So I don't deny that, like, there might be a cohort of people, but one, I don't know how big that cohort is. I know that there are some stats that do show that there is an increasing slice of basement boys. That seems to be the reality, where they're living with their parents, and that's how they're making a living. But I'm not denying that there are men that, because they don't have jobs and they can't get jobs, that they mooch off of their friends or people around them, and they become drug dealers and get into crime. I mean, that kind of goes to what I was saying about the loneliness epidemic and why people.
Yeah, but they're not lonely. These guys aren't lonely because they're with a girl every night. They're happy. They got like 3 or
Like,
4
they have
girlfriends.
tons of other bummy friends.
Yeah, this
So
is
some of
know?
this is about
Yeah,
Do
and
you
how
think that maybe these guys can't get friends because they're too busy talking about their feelings and
That's it.
actual men
No,
who
not
have friends
really.
don't sit
Oh,
around
God.
talking about their fucking feelings?
That's right.
Like, I would
No,
be
I
weirded
don't
out
think
if I
that.
was in a group, even with women. I mean, even like I'm very minimalized with the ladies
Even
like
oversharing
sharing
epidemic.
oversharing. But like, if I had a dude friend and he started saying, "Yeah, I'm really sad. Like, I haven't been able to hang out with anyone, and I'm really depressed because I can't get a date, and yet like I'd be like, you're not my friend anymore. Like, you
Yeah.
guys go away."
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Right?
one
I don't
thing if
have
it's like
time.
totally out of the
I
blue
don't
and they're
have
like, I've been
time
really
for.
struggling.
They
Sure,
can just
you help your
say
friend.
one.
No, it's
Yeah,
no,
they
no, no.
can
It's
People
not
just
like just.
say that
But
they
it's
feel
like
one
if
thing.
you're like regular like Joe, if it's like your like best
All the
friend and they
time.
come to you, but if it's like they're bitching about this all the time and you've already like taken them out to the club or you've taken them out to like whatever activity it is where they wanted to meet people and they're still bitching about this shit, like yeah, fam, you're cut. Like I don't want you in my group. Like use a bitch. Like
Yeah, Debbie
I
Downer.
mean,
Nobody wants a
again,
Debbie Downer. And
this
like,
is
why
Yeah.
are men
yeah, like
being
stuff
Debbie
that
Downer?
shit
Like, it's
down,
fucking
fam.
weird.
Well,
Ugh.
well, I think that
shit
there's
down.
another answer to
That's what we
that,
all
which
do.
I don't. Which I don't think has to do with like feminism or women or any of that. Although I think there are some shifts that are related to that are bad, like the turning Boy Scouts into scouting. I think has been bad for boys, for instance. De-emphasizing sports and competition in high school, as Gibbs said. I don't know if you said this, but I agree with the sentiment of what he's saying, which is I do think that that's bad for boys. But part of the reason I think like why there has been this emphasis on less physical aggression, more focus on emotional relatability and that kind of thing is because, and I keep saying it, it's because our economy is different today than it would have been years ago. Okay. It's shifted, especially, we have shifted away from being a manufacturing and agrarian economy into being a service economy. A lot of the jobs, the jobs that we seem to be shifting into are things like retail, education, healthcare. They have to do with you being a person, talking to another person, and you providing a service to a client. Okay. If you are the kind of person, okay, that when the client comes to your business and you respond by telling them to fuck off, okay, like when they do something that you dislike, okay, that it puts you in danger of getting fired. Okay. That puts you in danger. So I think part of the reason like why there has been this emphasis on young men to be this way, it's framed usually as being this way because of women and wanting to be romantic and dating and all this other stuff. But I really think that the other side of it is that we want these people to be employable. Okay. And if we have people that are throwing hands or that are duking it out behind, the bar, and they work at the bar, and also you serve drinks, you're a waiter, you're a hostess, you're a host there. I don't know how long you're going to keep that job. Okay. So I really think that a lot of this does apply back. And I think this also goes back to what I was saying before about the differences between men and women and how I think that's affecting like a lot of young men in a huge way. Okay. I think that what we are coming up against, like with school, okay, I think a lot of men are struggling in school. And I think that is impacting their ability to get a job, which is therefore impacting their ability to make friends and to be social and to get married and to have kids. If we want the loneliness thing to go away, we need to be able to like propel these men into being able to be economically independent. That means not just having a job, but being able to make enough money to live by themselves and being able to have the income to go out and to do things. And for a lot of these men, even if they come from relatively good families, if you're a kid that grew up, and you weren't really challenged in school and you fucked around in high school, you didn't really turn in your stuff, and you have poor executive functioning, you don't show up on time, you don't wear your suit, you don't do what you're supposed to do, partially because you've been so poorly socialized by too much internet access at a young age, then regardless of how smart you are, you're going to have trouble keeping a job, and that's going to suck. It's going to suck. And I'm not denying that there are homosexuals, there are drug dealers and bad people, okay? But I think that those people are kind of the exceptions. I think the rule is for a lot of people, okay, they wind up mooching off of family members.
Yeah,
They wind up mooching off
but
of
Fairy
family.
Queen,
That's how they
this is
survive.
the problem I'm having with this, right? Because it keeps coming back to this bitch ass like attitude, right? Like, okay, I talk about this guy all the time. I used to work at Wingstop. We had 3 guys named Juan. this one guy we named Juan 2. Real original fits of ingenuity over here. All right, so Juan 2, good friend of mine. I talk to him like once a month, which is good for men. That's really good, right? Like, hey, I call one of my guys my best friend. I haven't talked to him in years. That's how it works. Anyway, I talked to him, and just the other day he was telling me, giving me a life update. He's like, "Oh, Gibbsy, I have 3 jobs right now. I'm like, what kind of jobs are they? Got to be minimum wage because he's, like speaks no English, and that's all he's ever done, right? So he's works 3 minimum wage jobs. He's just like, oh, I just paid off my brand new Porsche. I just got married. I'm about to have like kids. I'm like, hell yeah. This guy's living the American dream. Why? Because he's doesn't have a case of pussitis. He gets up off his ass and works like 16 hours a day. And like, if you want this lifestyle and this guy can find a woman and get married and be happy, like, what is their excuse? Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just laziness or like pussitis. I don't really know. This like lack of competitive drive these people have is costing them, I think.
It is. And if we talk to somebody like that one-on-one, that's what you would say to that person, right? But
Yes.
I'm saying that laziness stems from a couple of reasons why these people come to be this way, okay? And they come to be this way because, one, they have way too much internet access in school at young ages. I think that we are facing a
Who
reckoning
cares?
right
Your
now.
your healings,
Two,
your
one.
wounds aren't your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. Your wounds aren't your fault, but your healing is your responsibility.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Boom,
Yeah,
boom.
and you're fat around your belly. You have to go get on the treadmill to go run it off, right? But like,
And I
at the
mean
end of the
that,
day,
yes.
yeah, but like if we're talking
Like,
about
get
why
up.
a lot of people can't do
Yeah,
it,
I don't care
if
that
you don't do it-
McDonald's is a
Yeah, you don't have to care, but like, I
but
mean,
get your
like,
ass
it
up and
doesn't
get on the
matter.
treadmill. Like, I don't care that McDonald's addictive. It's addictive for all of us in the same ways.
Look, you can say that to every fat
True again.
person you
We
meet,
all
okay, but
have
it's not going
thoughts
to
of what
change
we
the
would
fact.
say, to the
Yeah, we all.
individual.
Yes, but that's not
No,
what we're talking
we'd all
about.
have shit we'd say to the industry, but we can't change the entire industry. There's countries where you can go
No,
live off
but
welfare.
no,
Yes.
no,
You can go to
but-
the UK and live off welfare problems and be a full-time streamer with 6 fucking viewers because you were
Okay,
living off fucking government welfare the entire time. There are countries where these
Wait,
programs
can I?
exist.
Yeah, but Cal,
Yes,
okay, like
yes,
if we're
you
thinking.
can.
But it's also true that things that we do that affect kids when they're really young can make big differences and changes and impacts
Right,
on
but-
them when they become adults.
But
Like
it
And
affects
they- and
our
those
kids
nothing
the
to compete
same
with. There's
way.
nothing to compete with. There's no first place
Comic
trophy without a
books.
participation trophy coming with it. And like everything is left to be equal and everybody's going to have a fair chance and everybody's going to get a little sheet that says good job on it. Like we need to bring back competition, make bullying great again, and let people roughhouse all the fuck they need to. Because without that competitive sense that you need, like you have to learn that early. If you're the weak bitch on the field, guess what? You're gonna figure it out, or you're just gonna be dropped out, right?
And-
And if
well,
you don't
yeah,
learn that early on as a child, iPads, yeah, I get it. They have their own issues, whatever. But it's that competitive nature that people need to be motivated. Like me, I had 2 brothers to compete with my entire life, and guess what? We still compete to this day. It's a matter of who's getting the next degree, who's getting the next this, who's getting the next that, who's doing what, and it's always like this, like silent competitive level. And all 3 of us do it, and all 3 of us have succeeded and done well
Yeah.
because of it. We had each other to do that with, but we don't bitch the fuck out like all of these other kids are these days. There is no participation trophy. It's crap.
Yeah. And I don't think it all comes down to that. And I'm like, I didn't mean to cut you off with that, Fairy Queen, but I'm like, as much as I'm sure, like, it's important that people should study. There should be people that study all these broader, like, societal implications. Like, yes, the fast food industry is bad. We should have, like, documentaries that study that stuff. We shouldn't, like, use that as a, like, well, since the system is set up against me, I just can't do shit about it. It's like,
well, that's not what we're saying. We're not saying
no, I know,
that.
I know,
We're
of course not,
saying that.
But you're saying like, of course, like you're saying, well, let's look at the greater causes. Let's look at the reasons why these things happen. And I'm saying, well, unfortunately, this is the society we live in. These things have happened. If you have like a shitty parent, like of course, and like there are some things that we can do to even things out. And that's why I came back to like we need to have a common level for what we expect out of in an integrated like member of society, someone we're going to put out into society. I think it should be gendered to some degree. I don't think it can be agendered in the way that we expect it to be. But also, yeah, there's a reason. It's not just gendered. Gibbs and Sarah, like they have Hell Camp or like Hell Week at fucking Cheer too. Okay, at my high school, like where they weed off the week. Like there are like systems in place to like, and I think team sports, blah blah blah, participation trophy, blah blah blah. But what it really comes down to is that we don't need to look at why these things happen. It's what can we do as individuals, because the system is set up against us. We're living in a like system where tech is taking over all these variables that we talked about. So what can we do to make ourselves better people, because we're responsible for ourselves now.
Well, I mean, here are some things that we can do as individual voters. One thing that we can do, and this is why I'm talking about iPads, okay? As parents and as teachers and as people that are mentors, we need to take a note from this and realize that exposing little kids and exposing small, like young people to like internet technology and to video games too much for too long at such young ages, that is something that you can do individually. That is something you can do for the little kids that are in your life. You can make that decision. You can make the decision to go to the school board, and you can complain about kids having too much access or being put on it too much. That is something that a lot of people could do that could have a huge impact on a lot of kids' abilities, like to be successful later on in life. I think that is something that you can do. So that's something that is something that you can do. That's one reason that we can talk about here. But the second thing is, Sarah, I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree that like being competitive and like being like, being put into sports and participation trophies, I don't like the fact that Boy Scouts has become scouting. I think that's been terrible for boys. I think there are lots of things that we could think about, and I agree with you, like in spirit. But what I don't agree with you, okay, I don't agree with the line about that we have become less competitive. I actually think that for a lot of these boys, their problem is precisely that they aren't competitive. And they are not competitive, and they know that they aren't competitive in school. So like this particular bracket, and this goes back to the spicy take that I made like at the very beginning, like when I said like the differences between men and women. This is my spiciest take, okay? This is something that's usually made as a dig against women, okay, which is like the implications of like intelligence averages like between men and women. When you look at the distribution, you can see that there are more male geniuses, okay? Typically speaking, women tend to hug the middle, okay? You tend to have more women of like roughly average intelligence, according if you believe in IQ stuff. And you have more male geniuses, but you also have more male idiots, like on the tail and on the other end of the distribution. And if you, it is what it is. But if you don't think that's true, right? If you think that IQ like research is bogus and bunk, okay? Here is at least one thing that even people who think that it's bunk will agree on. And that's that IQ scores at the very least are good at detecting who has a learning disability. They're good at detecting who has intellectual disabilities and who are people that have disabilities. And when you're looking at the distribution of that, generally speaking, men tend to have more learning disabilities. They tend to have like more of those disabilities like in early childhood. That tends to be something that they struggle with more in school. So even if you think that this whole thing is bunk, okay, at the very least, you have to accept the fact that it is good at identifying who is more likely to have a disability in school. So what does this mean if you believe in intelligence averages, okay? Well, who's going to be successful? We know that when we're looking, and this holds true, by the way, like this difference in like intelligence, like what we're talking about, it holds true even when you control for things like discrimination, even when you hold true, it holds true even when you could control for things like poverty. So even when you're going to a school, okay, that is underserved, okay, that has kids from poor families, even kids from the same families, okay, when you look broadly on averages, okay, this tends to be the case, okay? It tends to be the case that, yes, you're going to have more male geniuses, but you're going to have more male idiots, and you're going to have more women that tend to hug the middle. Why does that have implications for our economy shifting and for being lonely, okay? We need more people to go to college. Today, it pays to be smart. It pays to go to college. It pays to be able to get into, and I'm not talking about like being able to get into degrees like physics and chemistry and all of this other stuff. Like it is a really good time, never better, in fact, for you to do that than it is today, okay? Because there are just so much more jobs that are available in the service industry. So if you're somebody that's like in the middle or if you're towards the right end, you're doing just fine, okay? But if you're a man, okay, and you're in the middle, or if you're at the left hand of the distribution, okay, times are tough for you, okay? And times are tough for you because one, you are having to compete with more women and with more people than you have or would have like in the past.
But that's not an excuse. That's just not an excuse.
I'm not saying it's
an
an excuse. I'm just explaining it.
explanation.
It's an explanation, okay? I'm saying that a lot of men, okay, we have to face the facts that we've been trying to push just about everybody to be able to get into university, everybody to have the chance of being able to go to college and be successful. And we are bumping up against the reality over and over and over again. Even if I granted like the perfect fantasy that, you know, every family was a stable 2-parent family with a good income and a good values and all of those things, this distribution fact that I'm talking about would still hold to be the case. You would still have a sizable group of young men who would have a real problem anyway getting and being able to go to college. These guys need to be funneled into jobs that they can be successful at. And I think that a lot of the things that we've done in schools have been done with really good intentions, but I don't think that it's been good for boys. And a lot of the boys that I'm talking about, the reason, like, I think why you're hearing a lot about, frankly, I think OnlyFans, like, I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I think that porn is a problem. I think it's a huge public health crisis. I think there are lots of things that I'm critical about it. But I think that when men complain about OnlyFans and when they complain about all of this frequently, I think it's a red herring, okay? I think it's a red herring for the reality, okay? Which is that a lot of these young men cannot compete with their female counterparts or with men that are much smarter than them in school. And they know that they cannot compete with them in school. They know that they can't get into these same degrees. And so the response to women becoming more competitive and flooding into the workforce more so today than they have been is to, one, a smear campaign to say that the economic growth that women have had is because, oh, well, it's because all women are whores. Look at all the OnlyFans models that are walking around. And you're ignoring like the huge surplus of, you know, more doctors, more nurses, more HR reps, more all of these like new like jobs that women are flooding into. And I think that that's
on average.
And I don't, because I honestly don't think that these men who are opting out of going to college to instead choose to stay at home and to forever get their associate's degree, I just don't believe that they are doing that because, you know, because of feminism. They are doing that because they fucked around in school. That's why.
Well, hold on.
And why
hold
did
on.
they fuck
You
in
kind of,
school?
Yeah, it used to be they could just be comedians.
Well, you kind of touched on something though, right there. When you talked about the finances, like there's a statistic out there. I remember it made around like about like a year ago, and it was when I guess Forbes did that study, and they found that women are like twice as likely to own a home, and it's 40% of those women own the home due to divorce. Like I think also it's like structurally stacked against the men in some regards and some things like that. Why would you ever want to get married if you're gonna lose your house, guaranteed? Like almost, right? Like that doesn't incentivize, you know. And then nobody follows the laws of common
buy it out though. You still have to buy it out. Like you don't just get the house outright. You still have to do a buyout. It's considered marital property and it's split accordingly based on, you know, if they bought.
Well, yeah, but then you have things like alimony and spousal support in addition to their funds that they're making on their own.
Alimony is so rare. Like if she already has a job, you're not going to be able to get alimony unless there's like a huge dramatic, like he's a billionaire and she makes $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
And like there might be
like 15 years involved or something.
Like there might be a period of time in which they allow a supplemental until you get back to where you need to be, right? But overall, like alimony is so chalked up as nothing anymore. Is if she's working, if she has been a 20-year stay-at-home wife, and all of those things, then yes, but again, it's still a supplemental period only. It could be like a 2-year alimony amount. It just depends on what her potential is to get a job and support herself.
I think even with that though, this is still like structurally, it's still stacked against the men because they are losing something they've worked on, and it's not just the like financial, right? Like I know from a man's standpoint, right? You look at a relationship as like a time. You put time into this.
Not losing something in that.
Sure,
in that divorce
I understand that. I understand that.
And
this is why. Hold on. You don't even know what I'm going to say. You're already objecting. I'm just saying from a man's standpoint. I'm not a woman, so I can't say it from a woman's standpoint, but from a man's standpoint, I know a major thing when I'm looking at it is like, oh, why do you want to put all this time? Then we're going to do the legal contracts. That's going to cost us money if we ever do get out. You know, we're both going to be bad. You know, I'm going to have had stuff in my name, and now it's not. Whether or not it's financially made whole or not, it's a whole different debate, because we're not going to be financially made whole because the lawyers are definitely going to take a big portion. And so why do you, like, right now, I feel like it's structurally set up to, like, disincentivize relationships when it comes to ending, right? And part of it is now, since ending a relationship is so common, Like, why would you want to invest that as a man? Now, as a man, I know I don't want to invest that. I'm sure the same can be
Or a
said for a
woman.
woman, right? Like, I just, I don't see this,
It
and
is.
this is why I come back to the combative thing with the, like, bitch ass, like, everything we're going to talk about our feelings, because a divorce literally is happening because we couldn't talk our feelings out, right? And I'm not saying get physical in that sense, but it does come back to, like, men have not been able to work out their physicality, haven't been able to work out their feelings, because they don't think about the same things the same way. And I think the same thing with women is there's just, like, this no fear. They weren't taught, like, oh, hey, that stove's hot, and then they put their hand on it and burn. Instead, someone built rubber playpen around it, and then they never ever got burned, and there's no idea of, like, real world repercussions. I think physical pain, like, rewires this in. I think competitive nature wires this in, and I think it all stems back to that, in my real opinion. And that's why I'm, like, looking at this.
Say
It's just
though
bad.
that there are issues where they aren't able to talk about their feelings in these relationships. It's not because they're not able to go out and
Right,
punch a
it's
bag.
because they
It's because
couldn't,
they're not
they didn't
able
weren't
to
developed.
verbalize their feelings.
Right, because
in the
all we've
first
been
place.
doing
And the
is
way
doing this
they
talk
can
bullshit
learn
instead
how
of,
to
like,
verbalize their feelings
no.
is by
Why
doing
is
it in
it?
the past.
Why
How
is
do
it?
you learn how
Hold
to do
on. Why is
anything?
it that
It's by
younger and
doing
young?
it a
Hold on.
lot.
Why is it
If
that's
you
true?
never
That's
learn
not
to
true, though. We
verbalize
know
it,
that's not true because we look at divorce rates as they get older.
how do you learn to walk?
Hold on.
By walking.
Hold on. Older generations didn't have this participation mentality. So ever since we've moved away from having the physical violence and the physical, like, altercation aspect and the competitive nature, ever since we moved away from that,
Became legal
divorce has gone way
in more
higher.
circumstances.
It's not a proportional
Divorce became legal
response.
in more circumstances, and women were actually able to achieve self-actualization separate from marriage. That's why divorce has gone up so much. It's not just because men haven't been fighting each other enough.
I mean, I'm saying everybody
Like,
has not been, like, having any conversation. If you don't relate physical pain to, like, any
They're
kind of
not having
emotional,
any
you are having your
conversation.
emotional
That is the
growth
problem.
stunted. Your emotional growth is stunted with no pain response.
I just think it's so silly to suggest that to be better at communicating, you should fight more. Not that you should communicate.
It's not just
more.
fighting. It's, like, all the physical aspects. Like, okay, like, there's risk-taking behavior.
Am I saying you should never go to the gym? Am I saying you should never be in team sports? All I said is you should know how to say how you feel. And suddenly I'm being told
What if
that
how you feel
actually
is wanting to punch somebody in the face?
then you don't do it because that's assault, which is illegal.
That sounds like pussitis.
When I feel like
Guys,
punching
you gotta
someone in the
balance that
face,
part.
I think, should
right,
I
go
punch
to the
that person
gym.
in the face?
Yeah,
And then I
go
don't
to
do
the
Possibly.
it because the answer
Or
is
you
no.
go might not be good to punch that guy because he's 6'8" and a linebacker at fucking Alabama, and then when
If
you do and he
being
beats your ass, you
scared
learn
is the
something
only
from this.
reason you don't punch somebody, then you're a fucking bitch who needs to learn how to talk.
That doesn't make it no sense at all. That you can be scared, you can be not scared. Sometimes you need to step up when you're scared, like to know you can do something. This guy talks shit. He called my wife a hoe. I'm scared of that guy, but I have to punch him in the mouth
Challenging
now.
you said the challenge is within, and
These
I
are all
agree.
experiences you have to
challenge
learn.
yourself. There's a difference between challenging yourself and standing on business about how you feel and what you need versus going out and, like, starting fights because somebody said something. Like, I just think there's a complete and total difference between developing courage and confidence, not only because you know
if a guy
what the
pulls a
fuck you're
gun on you
talking
and your
about.
husband, right, and he's like, okay,
A
I'm gonna pull a gun on. Hold
I
on.
thought you were talking
Hold on,
about
hear me out.
fighting
Hear me out. Hold on, hear me
physically.
out. I am. I'm gonna hear me out. Hold on. Do you want him to go, all right, I'm gonna physically protect you by taking this bullet for you, or do you want him to go, I feel that I should survive too, and then push you in front of the bullet?
These are both.
like,
This is the stupidest question I think.
which
you've
one do you
ever
think is
asked me
better?
on a panel. I think this is the dumbest question you've
I
ever
think it's
asked
a
me
real,
on
it's a
panel.
real
no,
question.
To be clear,
option
what
three,
I would
Gibbs,
prefer is
option
fucking
three.
leave.
But option 3 is the guy starts crying and the woman has to beat the shit out of the guy. Like, and I swear to God, I've seen
Are
these
these
men.
the only three options available when
what the-
someone pulls a gun on you? Are
Yeah,
these
pretty
literally?
much. What are you gonna
Is
do?
that really what
What are you
happens?
gonna do? What would you do if somebody did that to you? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna talk it out with them?
Well, if only I had experience fighting all of my peers in middle school, then I would know exactly what to do when someone held me up at gunpoint. Like, what are you talking
that's
about?
a pretty solid argument right there.
That's not a solid argument. What are you going to punch the gun out of his hand?
Maybe, if you close the distance, like,
That's a good idea.
I'm just saying, you know why you close the distance with someone with a gun? They're less likely to hit you.
When you're held up at gunpoint, when I'm held up at gunpoint, I think, what could I do to escalate this and make the gunman angrier?
Mm.
That's my first thought is, how can I get myself shot as fast as possible? What if I punch him?
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. This is that fear right there. That's what they're talking about here.
If I'm in a place where I might be held at gunpoint, I'm having a gun on me too. First off, I'm not
Amen.
punching it out of his
Welcome
hand
to
like
the
a fucking
Second Amendment.
lunatic. I think you're a dumbass to ask me that question. That's why I said this is the stupidest question you've ever asked me, because it unironically is. Second, if I'm with my partner and we're held at gunpoint, do I want him to think I should get shot by this gun? No, because I don't like my loved ones dying to bullets. Okay, third, if I see a gunman, I don't have a gun, my partner doesn't have a gun, do I want my partner to argue with the gunman? Probably not. Do I want him to throw hands with a gunman? Probably not, because I would like my partner to have a fucking brain and think realistically about the probability of getting out of the situation alive and what is the most reasonable option, what is the most reasonable choice in that circumstance. If neither of us are armed, we do not have the upper hand, then I'm just gonna fucking give them the wallet and lay down. I don't care. I'd rather not die, and I'd rather my partner's ego not get him dead. I think that'd be a pussy move. And if my partner is gonna die because he's too egotistical to hand over his wallet, then fucking die, bitch. That's a joke. Don't die.
It's
but
not
I'm
about
just
the
saying,
wallet,
that's ridiculous.
though.
It's about your
the
ego. It's about
threat.
dying for
No,
your
it's
pride.
not your ego. No, it's not ego at all. This man with a pew pew is threatening not only your life,
sorry.
but the life of your wife, right? Or girlfriend or child or whoever. Are you going to just sit there and let this man come up and threaten you and yours? Absolutely not. You're going to stand your ground and you're going to deal with it. Right? Like, we're not going to sit there and be like, oh, here, Mr. Man, take my wallet, because guess what? You give him your wallet. Well, now you've seen his face. Now you've dealt with him. Now he's probably
We
high
did not talk about this
anxiety anyways.
gunman being
But now he's
phase
going to go
free.
down all of these
You're adding
routes,
new
and you're probably going to die anyways. You might as well die going out with punching and kicking and screaming and trying your best to get the deal with it.
Armed robbery chances of death. Let's see.
I mean, their chances of death in Texas are pretty high. I'll tell you that for the robbers.
Low. Lethality in the 1990s was 15.7%. Is that what I saw? Let me find. So I just don't know if I believe that you're likely to die in every single assault situation where there's armed robbery. I think that's a ridiculous suggestion. I think saying just die for it is silly. I think yes, there are other variables that could happen in the situation, but just to say, yeah, well, he threatened your wife, so you should die. I think your wife would care if you were dead. I think your wife would actually be pretty upset if you were dead. Now, I'm not saying you have to break down in tears in the middle of the street as a man. I'm saying, respond how you respond, but you don't have to, standing on business doesn't mean acting reckless and escalating every situation possible. And to me, some of these statements just sound like advocating more for escalating the situation than it does for ending it. And in my mind, I would rather have a partner who can end this situation. And if that requires hitting somebody once, I'm not a hitter, but whatever.
Well, hold on. There's a famous.
That requires sitting down and handing over your wallet, then fucking sit down and hand over your wallet, okay? I'd rather them have the critical thinking skills necessary to know what would be the safest option, not just to have the feeling of pride.
Well, hold on.
I would rather them use their thinking skills to respond to that situation, because that's what's going to get us out alive.
But hold on, there's a historical precedent that's been set for this, and then I saw, I don't remember what the original historical context was, but I was watching Overlord, and it referenced this, and Overlord's an anime, you didn't know, but all art mimics real life in some way. And one of the characters is leading of an army, and the other guy's pulling up, and he's holding the kid hostage. And they end up killing the hostage and the guy, right? And the kid's father comes running out and he's crying. And the guy turns to the father and he goes, well, why are you still alive? He goes, if it was my kid, they would have had to kill me in order to get them. The fact that you didn't fight is bad. He's, where's your wife? Your wife is not here. You didn't fight for your wife. You didn't fight for your kid. You know, are you going to fight for your country now? And then the guy ended up like joining the military or whatever after. And I think there is something to be said for this, because we're like, you're saying, oh, it's okay for all these men.
We
We're just going to
talked
sit
about
here
a
and not
wallet.
fight.
We
yeah,
did not
fight.
talk about
And
a
it's,
child.
it's
We
the
did not
same
talk about
microcosm.
lives.
If you're not
It
willing
is
to
not the
fight for, if
same.
you're not,
I did
it
not
is the
say-
same.
I
Like, it's
said they
like
should
you're
use
not willing to
critical
fight for
thinking.
your own situation. Like I'm just like,
This is ridiculous.
I'm
That is
just
such a
saying,
ridiculous
it's the whole overall.
That
like,
is so silly.
It's the
Stop
whole
being
overall.
so
Hold on, but
silly.
you're not like. I
This
think
is
you're
hootenanny.
missing. You're missing the bigger point to what I'm making.
Balderdash. You're
Is
missing
that
my point.
is that it's this like a protector mentality, and without this competitive nature going up, you never develop like the idea that like there are roles, like how to deal with this anger. How like, oh, I've never gotten in a fight my whole life. Now I'm not gonna fight when they come to kill my kid. Oh, I've never gotten in a fight my whole life. I know when to stop the guy that's trying to rob me, or when to like just let him have the wallet. You know, if there's like 5 guys with guns, yeah, maybe you don't fight. If it's one guy and it's some like 16-year-old kid and he's like antsy, you know, maybe don't you go to that guy. If it's some other guy doesn't look like he's got to go on, you maybe do. It's all situational, right? But how would you ever know if you've never had a conflict in your life at all? Like, and all you've ever done is talk things out. Like, what happens when talking's not enough? Like, this is a big thing. I think it comes back to even the dating world. Like, you just can't take no for an answer nowadays. And it's because they don't know how to take no, because they never had any competition. They never learned how to lose.
They
much
did not take
farther
no for a
does
long
that
time.
go
In
as-
fact, I'm pretty sure certain forms of rape were only made illegal in the 80s. So it's not that they just don't know how to take no now. Bitch, they never did. They just made it legal that we couldn't say no, or that our no's didn't matter. So that is a ridiculous statement, first off. Sorry, tomato, go crazy.
What I mean, how much further do they have to go before you decide that you're going to defend yourself, right? Your wallet's one thing, right? You can throw your wallet around and hope that
It's
right.
just a piece
But
of yeah.
how much further are they going to go, right? If you're not taking a stance and saying like, look, I'm going to give you my wallet and you're going to walk away, whatever. But if you're not beefing up, right? If you're not bucking up enough, if you're not doing those things that a man would generally know how to do, right? I don't know how to do it. Men probably does. But if you're not doing those things, how much further are they going to go? Because sometimes, I mean, what are they going to do with wallets now? You got a credit card? I'm just going to cancel it. You got my driver's license? Okay, I get a new one. Like, what are you getting out of a wallet? Like, who the hell carries cash anymore? Right? So, what are they coming
True.
for? Are they going to come through and looking for your wife? Are they looking for something else to take? Are they going to take her? Are you going to defend her then when they're trying to do bad things to your wife? Right? What about your child? Are they going to take your kids? Are you going to stand up and do something about it? Or are you going to try and talk it out? Like, I feel like most men like at this point might not even know how to do that.
But
I
I
just
think
don't
that
even
part of
know
the
if-
reason why, but part of the reason why they don't know how to do that is because the real answer is if somebody breaks into your house, you call the cops, is like what really realistically would happen. And most of the time, like the threat of like somebody coming and attacking you, that is something that is incredibly rare, like and very situational. It's not something that's going to be, we don't live in an honor culture where people punch you and duke each other out. That might be a good learning or a developmental experience like when you're in school, but that's not the way that you probably, hopefully, like not the way that most adults have to live. And also, right, again, I'm going to go back again to the whole economy thing, which nobody likes me banging on this old drum, okay? How is you being uber masculine and aggressive and having all of this, how's that going to play out when you need to go get a job like somewhere in the service industry and that is like how you behave like with people like when they come to the store? Like that's the question. I don't know that that's going to play too well. I don't think it is playing too well. I think that's part of the reason like why a lot of men who are trying to go into those industries are struggling right now, because instead of going there, that they need to go to trade school or they need to go do something else. But instead they're being pushed into industries like where they don't thrive and where they can't be successful at. Which brings me back to the intelligence thing, which Gibbs, you responded to what I said by saying, but you're ignoring the structure.
I did mean to say one thing to that, was that it's good to know that I'm a male genius. I'm very excited to know that statistic.
Well, you're the top level.
Yeah, because it's not the other. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm an average, like men of average intelligence obviously go to college all the time too. But I'm just saying that like you're going to find like if you're in like that other half, You're going to find that life is more competitive for you in a way that simply would not have been true like 50 or like 60 years ago. You're not just competing against other men of higher or of average intelligence for these jobs. You're also now competing with a lot of women who have flooded the workforce for these jobs. And that is creating, I think tension between men and women in dating as well. I think it's creating, and I'll just stop there.
Anyone else?
I mean, does
thoughts?
anybody disagree? I mean, do you disagree with that money like is a huge problem like with dating? I mean, I hear it all the time. Like whenever I go on to listen to any of these podcasts, it's always the same thing. Some girl, usually a girl that's, I'm sorry, not very smart, gets pulled on, and then she's sort of bullied into what's your
Well,
like what type of income does a man have to make?
That's
But
actually
why?
interesting. I want to say this because what I experienced recently was something kind of the opposite. Was I was talking to two of my friends, and they're both from, let's go with like lower economic like backgrounds. Both super attractive. They're definitely like women you would like see that are like Instagram models. They have huge followings, all this stuff. So we were talking to them, and the one girl turns to the other girl. She goes, "Oh yeah, so and so makes good money." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, what does he do?" And she's like, "Oh, he's like the manager of a gas station, like a franchise one." And I looked it up, and I was like, "This guy's making like 48K a year." And like in Texas, that's above the what I think the average was like 42, and our standard of living is lower. And for a single guy in Texas, like that would be pretty good. You could probably go to the club every weekend, spill a couple $100. You could have a nice car, all these things. And it was interesting to me, like how I'll hear these things like on these podcasts where like, oh, these women are like, I only want 100K, and then I had like two friends like agreeing that this one guy was making a lot more money, and they are like the same kind of girl that would have been on one of those shows or something, or one of these clips where you see it, and they were talking about a way lower level, and I think that it just might be like that might be a regional thing due to like standard of living, like cost wise. Like since Texas has a lower like cost of living
Yeah.
than say like California. Like if I
Yeah.
made 50K in California, you're probably living under a bridge. If I make 50K here, you're gonna be probably popping bottles once a week at the club. Like it's
Yeah.
a totally different situation. I found that kind of an interesting aside. Does anybody else have thoughts here?
I completely agree with you. I think that is a huge factor in those types of conversations that get skipped over, which is that money plays differently depending on where you live. Like making 80K a year would be awesome here in Nebraska. Doesn't play the same way if you're in New York City, right? It's actually kind of a sucky salary if like you're in New York City. So yeah, I think that's definitely true. But I also think that part of the reason like why we're hearing these constant complaints about women expect too much, oh, they want to marry millionaires. I don't think anybody actually believes that. I think what we're running into is again the economic thing, which is that we have a larger subgroup of men who are not employed, who aren't making a whole lot of money. Their female counterparts are broadly speaking on average more economically successful, and they are more successful in school. So those girls, when they go off to work, whether it's at their place of work or whether it is at their, if they go to college or if they go to some kind of tertiary education, the men that those women are meeting are men who typically make more money than the men, okay, that they grew up with, okay, back in school, okay? So these men hate it when these girls go off to college, and they hate it when these girls are getting jobs, okay? That's why they're slamming on, all the midwittery and all of like the terrible it turns out that the Starbucks barista thing, I'm not saying that there aren't women that have bad degrees or that get in college debt. I think that can be a huge problem. But I really think that like the money thing of like a lot of men complaining about women having too high expectations, that's simply because more women are getting a bigger piece of the economic pie. And that is hurting like the economic ability for these men to date them in a way today that would not have been true like 50 or 60 years ago. These women would have been forced to or would have been more willing to date them because they would have made less money like 50 or 60 years ago. But because they make more money, they're socialized and they're surrounded with men that make more money. And so all of the rest of these men don't have the ability to meet these women.
All right. Well, since we're coming back about that time, I'm going to give everybody a final chance to shout themselves out and give any closing thoughts here. And then we'll get out of here. I'll have a couple other things going on for this wonderful September subathon that I'll be announcing afterwards. So go ahead, Buckaroo. Start us off with your final thoughts and where to find you and anything else. And let's kick us off here.
I'm Big Papa Buckaroo Banshee. You can find me on Twitter or X at Big Papa Buckaroo. I love arguing. So feel free to argue with me. If you're really annoying, I will mute the conversation, though. I can't help it. I just want to say that no matter what the problem is, we know men are somewhere in there. Get your shit together. I'm kidding. I'm not trying to be too much of a hater. Also, I just wanted to remind everybody of the great Aaron Carter. This is a poster from my childhood bedroom. I just had to tell everybody about it. My grandmother still had it in her house. So
I just
First
kind of always
concert-
pictured him like an old guy.
yeah, no, he used to be the teenage like heartthrob for a while. Anyway,
Tyler Carter.
Big Papa Buckaroo, thank you for having me. I've missed streams. I hope there are more, and this was actually really fun. I think you guys brought the game. Okay, it was a good chat.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Cal.
GG's. Thanks for having me. Again, I stream on YouTube and Twitch as well. My channel is Kinetic Kill. It's been a blast. I feel like sometimes we get stuck in the weeds a little bit, but I'm definitely guilty of that myself. So, something we can work around. But we should definitely all come back to Women's Panel sometime because it's a blast. And anyone willing to engage in the, marketplace of intellectual ideas is a winner in my place. So, GG's. It's been a pleasure, ladies. And Gibbs, thanks for having me.
Yes, as we all know, I'm the biggest feminist on Twitch hosting Women's Wednesdays, so we look forward to this continuing in the future. Mel Easy.
Hi guys.
I said, is Gibbs transgender?
Yeah, I just chose to ignore that and continue on. It's called a trick of the trade. Go ahead. Go ahead. Mel.
I'm Mel. You can follow me on Twitch and Instagram and Twitter or X at Melisi. I stream on occasion. I'm usually hanging out in Gibbs' Discord or just bullshitting. But yeah, it's been a good time tonight. We had a good discussion. Everybody needs to get over their case of Positis, and I think the world will heal. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Tomato.
Hello, I'm Sarah the Raging Tomato. Gibbs, thank you so kindly for having me. I normally put the shit shows together, but the fact that you could bring a bunch of women together and keep them all at bay is wonderful. That is quite a talent. You can find me over on YouTube. That's my main platform. I also stream on X and Insta and Rumble and lots more many things. We have our own Discord as well if you want to go play in that group too. But thank you, ladies, for the conversation. I don't usually get to have the battles. Usually I'm moderating them. So being able to play a little and get my hands dirty makes me feel normal yet again.
Do
Thank you.
more.
Back with the normies.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for being here. It was good having you. And Miss Fairy Queen.
Hi everyone. You can find me at DeRealFQ on Twitter and on YouTube. Again, I really think that if you want the male loneliness epidemic to be resolved, we have to work on addressing young male unemployment and the reasons behind why that is becoming an increasing reality. Thank you. Okay. I appreciate you all. Okay. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you so much for all being here. All right, guys, I will be doing some more stuff with the subathon if we hit our goals. I think the plan is that I'm going to be getting a spray tan, and I think that'll be pretty amusing. We're going to get the really darkest one. So that's going to be our first goal in the subathon when we reach that, guys. So stick around here. We're going to be switching over to do some gaming next, and it'll be fun times.
She's
as for the
shaking
rest
her
of y'all,
No,
y'all
I'm
have a
so
good one.
excited. I'm so pumped. It's gonna go. It's gonna get
It'll be
so
funny.
good.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure it's like the darkest setting for sure. But
Make sure to put lotion on your hands
Oh.
lotion
and
on-
elbows.
Oh, because you don't want it to like color. It'll like
Yeah, it
like,
gets in
color 'em
all like your
weird.
wrinkles, and so you end up with like dark
Could be a big
tan
problem.
lines like in your knuckles, and like I haven't self tanned, but I've watched like 7 YouTube videos about it. I'm too scared. But
I just keep imagining that, like, what is it? Is it Friends or whatever one where he like sprays one side and then double sprays the same side? That's like,
yeah.
that's
Oh,
like,
God,
that's what I'm
it's
like
so
envisioning in my
good.
head. Like, if we reach this, like,
And then
it's just
he-
that dark.
you should bleach your teeth if you get extra money.
That would be
Because
Yeah.
then he just did the self tan and the
extra
bleached teeth.
That's a good idea.
Malibu Barbie looking ass. Yeah. Oh my god. That'd be so funny.
That would be
Oh,
pretty
it's gonna be
humorous.
so good.
That'd be good. I kind of want to copy your idea. I'll see how you look though. I don't want to look too scary.
I'm hoping it's bad. I think it'll be way funnier than worse.
No, I think it'll be really bad. I have a picture of me wearing my friend's foundation in high school. She like did my makeup and she's like pretty dark. I looked fucking crazy. I looked like a Oompa Loompa because it's orange on orange. Like you're gonna look crazy. It's gonna be like orange on orange straight.
That's bad. Wow.
All right.
No,
Well,
okay,
I'm
man.
gonna jump out.
all right. You be good.
Amazing.
I'm also going to jump out and I'm going to start gaming. So y'all be good. Thanks for
Oh,
being
yeah.
here. Thanks for coming. All right, chat. Now we are switching over to gaming in a moment. Mm-mm.